And I'm like, something wrong with your eye?
Called him out?
He went, no. He's very arrogant.
He's just smart, I'm telling you. It's certain people, I've been here long enough. There's certain people I'd be like, you know what? I would give them the benefit of the
It's so
doubt.
insulting as a woman of substance to have that done to me. So, yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, I can imagine how insulted you would be.
Good evening, and welcome to the May 23rd, 2019 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. The time is now 6:35, and we're ready to begin. We'll start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Margaret Shepherd. Here. James Gallen.
Here.
Edward Canuti. Anthony Brown.
Present.
John Gustafson.
Here.
Renee Burgess.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, moving on to item 3, acknowledgement of board member absence notification.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff Gagnon, Acting Director of Development Services. We did hear from Mr. Canuti that he has a conflict tonight. All of the board members are present.
All right, thank you. Item 4, additions and deletions to the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note for the record that a supplement was provided. It was posted online yesterday and actually distributed through email early this morning. What was in that supplement was an amended traffic analysis that included traffic counts and trips associated with the Avenue E connection, which is associated with the Riviera Cove project, which is letters A, B, C, and D. So I wanted to make note of that addition. That traffic analysis will supersede the traffic analysis that was in the original packet. Thank you.
Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Margaret Shepherd.
Yes.
James Gallen.
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
John Gustafson.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item 6, approval of the minutes from the May 9th, 2019 P&Z meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
So move. Second.
Roll call.
Margaret Shepherd. Yes. James Gallen.
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
John Gustafson.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, item 8, new business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under new business, we have connected items. Letter A, B, C, and D are all connected items. What we'd like to do, if it pleases the board, is make a joint presentation for all 4 items simultaneously. We can take comment cards individually for each item, but we'd also request that the Planning and Zoning Board make a recommendation motion for each one of these items individually, just to make the record clear. I think that, well, I'll leave it up to the chair if you'd like me to read all 4 simultaneously for the record, or maybe go item at a time.
We can go item at a time, but before you do that, Jeff, I just want to reiterate to the public about the comment cards. So I'm just going to read what the back states for the record. Members of the public are encouraged to actively participate during the Planning and Zoning Board meetings and may do so by speaking on items or providing comments in writing to be read into the record. Most often, 3 minutes are provided to each individual on each action item. However, discussion time allocated may be modified from time to time. So we do have the timer tonight, so I ask that each of you respect the 3-minute time limit. If you wish to address the board, please complete the card and provide it to city staff. Please be mindful that this card must be submitted to city staff before the item you wish to comment on is open for discussion. When your name is called by the chairperson to speak, please state your name and address for the record before beginning your comments. Comments should be pertinent to and associated with the specific agenda item being discussed. Any person making impertinent or slanderous remarks or acting in a disruptive manner may be barred from further participation. The chairperson may advise that person to cease their discussion and may also ask that the individual be removed from the meeting. If you have any questions, please ask city staff. Thank you. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
To proceed.
So continuing with letter A. Letter A is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the city's comprehensive plan by changing the future land use map designation from high-density multifamily, MF20, future land use, for the western 5.13 acres of the property, to downtown mixed use, DMU, future land use, for the property located at 3301 Broadway, totaling 9.50 acres of land, identified by parcel control number 56 43 42 28 00 001 0120, to construct 89 townhomes and providing for an effective date. So at this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Andrea Harper, our principal planner, to provide the board and public with a presentation on letters A, B, C, and D, which are all associated. Ms. Harper.
Good evening, planning and zoning board members. Andrea Harper, principal planner for the record. Before you this evening, the applicant is D.H. Horton. The agent of record is the Watman Group. The project's name is Riviera Cove. Before you this evening, we have 4 requests. One is a future land use amendment. The second is the zoning map amendment. Third is site plan approval. And fourth is a plat approval. The site is located at 3301 Broadway, just south of Silver Beach Road, at the intersection of 34th and Broadway in the southwest corner. Just a bigger area view, and I just want to make mention of the surrounding uses. To the north and the south is a single-family residential district, zone RS6. To the south of the site is an existing mobile home park, which has a split zoning district, downtown general and RS single family. Just to the east is the Broadway right-of-way, and across the Broadway to the east is a motel, and just south of that, let me get my little, south of that is a federal building. The entire site is 9.5 acres. The site is vacant right now, and it sits on a split land use and a split zoning district. Once again, the first request is a land use application, 18-01. It's a small-scale comp plan amendment. The applicant wants to change the zoning land use map from high-density multifamily MF20 to our downtown mixed use. As you can see, highlighted in brown is the amendment area. The applicant would like to change the land use, the entire land use of the 9.5 acres entirely to, they want to establish a consistent land use throughout the property. We ask that the proposed future land use is consistent with adjacent uses, is consistent with the comp plan and our land use development regulations. We had no department objections. We ask that the board consider reviewing this information and presented by the applicant for the proposed future land use amendment as presented. The second request is a rezoning application, 18-01, a rezoning from downtown residential to downtown general. Once again, highlighted in the yellow is the proposed zoning change. The applicant would like, once again, to rezone the entire 9.5 acres to downtown general to make it consistent with the eastern portion of the property. We ask, once again, the proposed zoning amendment is consistent and compatible with the adjacent uses. It's compatible with our zoning comprehensive plan and land development regulations. No objections by the departments, and we also ask you that you consider this proposed zoning map amendment. The third request is a site plan approval application 18-08, site plan approval application with 89 townhome units. This is the proposed site plan that the applicant submitted to us. It comprised of 16 two-story townhome units. 16 townhome buildings, two-story townhome buildings. The access point is off of Broadway and Avenue E. The applicant has also provided, as you can see in your packet, some amenities. And one of the amenities is a tot lot, right here at the bottom, south of the property. There also is a shade structure for anybody that wants to watch their kids play at the park or just want to just sit out here. And also, the agent has also let me know that this shade structure will be used for kids catching the bus. You know, that's going to be a resident of this development. To the north, you have an rec area that they also provided. And they also laid out the site where we have sidewalks that goes directly down in the development all over, which is good, you know. So we have that pedestrian access for this development. Next is a parking layout. The site is required to have 178 parking spaces. Staff wanted some guest parking, so the applicant provided us an extra 100 spaces. Those spaces are highlighted in green throughout the site. So we thought it would be best that you provide, you know, the applicant provide the spaces so the tenants or the owners won't be parking in the right-of-way. So it, as you can see, it's enough parking spaces for all the 89 units. They also provided an overall landscaping plan, and in your packet, you have individual landscaping plans if the board choose to go through that. They also provided elevations. This is the 4-unit elevation building unit. This is the 5-unit building. This is 6-unit building, and a 7-unit building. Once again, there were no objections by any department staff. We ask you could please consider reviewing the information presented by the applicant and for the proposed site plan with 11 conditions as follows. Condition 1 is a standard condition, is a 2-year landscape and performance bond. The second is construction must be initiated with 18 months of the effective date. The third condition is all future advertisement must state that the development is located in the city of Riviera Beach. The fourth condition is this development must receive final certificate of occupancy from the city for all buildings and units approved within the 5-year of the approval of this adopted resolution. The fifth condition is once approved, the adopting resolution shall supersede any previous site plan. Sixth condition is, once approved, the city council authorize the city staff to approve future amendments to the site plan administratively as long as the site does not deviate greater than 5% or 1,000 square feet, whatever is less from the original approval site plan. This condition of approval does not include an increase in the number of units. The seventh condition is prior to receipt of certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion, the applicant must provide a 10 by 30 palm tree easement, and the bus shelter installation and maintenance shall be required. The eighth condition, the owner shall record the plat within the official record of the Palm Beach County prior to the issuing of the CO or the CC. The ninth condition, in order to increase the neighborhood stability, all units must be owner occupied for the first year after initial sales date. The 10th condition, the property owner is responsible for the completion of Avenue E roadway extending to West 34th Street, located in the north side of the development prior to the issue of the certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion. This is identified on the site plan as avenue to be extended to West 34th Street. And the last condition, the property owner agrees to allow the completion of Avenue E within the public right-of-way when the adjacent property to the south is redeveloped in the future. This is also identified on the site plan as future right-of-way to be constructed when adjacent property is redeveloped. The fourth and last approval is a plat approval application, 18-02, for the entire 9.5 acres. This is the western portion of the plat, eastern portion of the plat. Once again, there were no objections from any department staff. The plat was reviewed and approved by the city's plat review consultant. The plat is needed to facilitate the development. And once again, I ask that you consider reviewing the information presented by the applicant for the proposed plat. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be free to answer. Go ahead.
Does the board have any questions of staff? So none at this time, so if we could hear from the applicant.
We'll let the applicant.
can use this to go back and forth. if you like. Or you can use the mouse.
Good evening. My name is Hope Calhoun. I am the attorney for the applicant. The city staff, Andrea, presented a very thorough presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. We've been working on this project for over a year with city staff. We are excited to move forward with the 89 townhouse units. I can go through the PowerPoint. It's going to actually look very similar to the one you saw, but I'll go through it very briefly. That is technical difficulty on my end. That's okay.
This one.
Again, you've heard all of the requests that are before you this evening, the site plan, rezoning, comp plan, and the plat. We have submitted, and you have seen in your backup, the narratives and justifications for all of those, and we have satisfied the criteria for each of them. Again, this is just a site. Again, you've already seen it. You know where it is located. And we believe, obviously, the townhomes are a good transition from the single family to the Broadway Avenue and the commercial across the street. Again, just another graphic of the surrounding uses. Again, just pinpointing the uses that are surrounding us and the surrounding zoning. Again, we are consistent. The proposed plan is consistent with what is around us. And again, the townhomes pose a good transition for the area. Again, you've seen this, the existing conditions. Previously, it was a mobile home park, and we are looking to redevelop the site that is vacant now and make it really a nice area for new and existing residents of the city. Again, you are aware that there's split zoning on the parcels, so we're looking to unify both the zoning and the land use through the two applications that are before you. That is the rezoning application and the land use application. The goal of those is to combine and have a unified land use and zoning on the property. You've seen this. This, again, is the site plan that we're proposing, 89 units on the 9.5 acres. We will construct Avenue E as a condition of approval. With regard to the condition of approval, we have read and understand each of them, and we have agreed to them. Again, we're just here highlighting the green area and the green space that will go, that you'll see once the project is completed. Again, we're making an improvement to a currently very underutilized parcel of land. Just more graphics, again, showing the recreation area as has already been discussed and addressed on both the north and the south end of the eastern entrance of the property and the project. And that is the area highlighted on the south side, the future extension of Avenue E once the park to the south, if and when it gets developed, will go through there. Site plan, again, you have this in your backup. The mail kiosk is located at the beginning of the community, so as people come in, they can park. There are parking spaces there. They can park and get their mail, or they can go home and get a little exercise and walk up to the rec area and get their mail, or play at the tot lot and enjoy the shelter that we've provided. Again, the plat, you just saw this, the east and then the western plat. Very quickly, the renderings, the units will have 4, 5, 6, and 7 units. They are very similar in architecture. It really just is a matter of how many units are in a building or a block. Again, consistent architecture throughout. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I am here, obviously, to answer them, and so is the WGI team. Thank you.
All right, let's see what we have for public comment.
I'm sorry, just one other thing. I just would like to ask to reserve some time to respond to any public comments that may need response from the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the first comment card I received does not state which particular item they would like to speak on. It just says 3301 Broadway for Raj. Would you like to come to the mic and speak?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have no objection with the property, what they're doing over there, townhomes, but issue is only, we need guarded security 24/7 in that area, because previously it was the mobile homes, lot of issues, and I have a property right across Travelers Inn Motel, and We've been through that before also. So that's how they shut down that area. The only request is just 24/7 security guard and gated community. So nobody can go in and out, and safer for my property also.
Thank you. Mr. Raj, can you state your address for the record?
334 Broadway. 3334.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I think we had an issue with our timer too, so I don't want to cut anybody short. So if his comments weren't finished.
Will you finish?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Next, Bonnie Larson.
There you go. That'll be start. That's really loud too, by the way.
Bonnie Larson, I have several things I want to bring up right up front, and that is that it's a known fact we're going to be redoing the comp plan very soon. So I think to approve something like this, maybe it needs to wait a while because we're going to be redoing it. So the other thing is, I thought we were going to have a downtown area, and this is the only downtown area that we have. So if we start putting housing, I know someone else wanted to put housing there too, we start putting housing right on Broadway, businesses are not going to want to come in and build right next to that. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to ruin the whole downtown area. We got to think ahead what we want. And the attorney said it was consistent with surrounding area. Well, the surrounding area are mobile homes, and that's what we're trying to get rid of. And we've gotten rid of a lot of them, and the other ones will go by the wayside. So I don't think saying that it's consistent with the surrounding area is a good argument, because that's not what we want. I just saw the drawings tonight. So, and I think also when we have something like this, it would be nice to meet, I don't know the applicant, I heard his name just now, Walton or something like that. We should meet them. They should come up here and introduce themselves, not just the attorney. We need to see who these people are. There's a Mr. Hine I saw, Mr. Hine and Nicholas Hine. I know that name pretty well. He's the gentleman with the water issue, 6-year water issue not paying. But he's somehow connected with this. I don't know if he owns it or what. It's not clear. Parking, okay. We have such, I've talked about this at the city council meeting many, many times. We only allow 2 parking spots per unit. That's not, that was in the 50s, the 40s or 50s. Today is 2019. Husband and wife both have a car, kids have a car. They can't park anywhere. All those visitors parking spots are going to be taken up right away. So there won't be any visitors parking. And also the visitors parking is way off in another direction. I can see wanting to zone it all the same so that you can do whatever. I didn't understand what they said. Oh, another thing I didn't like. Owner operated the first year. We are with 60% rental or something, so why is it only for the first year? You can't dictate when somebody buys it, but to say owner operated for the first year, inconsequential. Extend Avenue E to West 34th, who's going to do that? Who's going to pay for that? So many notes here. Anyway, I saw there was a tot lot. I'm in favor of that. I didn't say how big the tot lot was because all these people have kids. Like I said, parking is not going to do it. And when we have a chance to improve things in the city, we need to do it. More parking. 2 per unit isn't going to cut it in 2019. Also, I didn't hear how many 5-building, 6-building, and 7-building units there would be. I didn't hear that. I also didn't hear a price. I read the price somewhere else, but I didn't hear them say it. Anyhow, I have a lot more, but I just want you to think about that. Do we want to put housing on Broadway? Because we're doing away with the, with our downtown area. And I would like to meet the applicants. They should come up. But think about that, what it's going to do to our downtown area. We won't have one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Larson. I'll have the applicant come up and address those concerns because she had quite a few. So, yes, if you could come up and address, I kind of took some notes, so if you don't have everything, I can help you out there. Let's start off with the first comment that we had about the 24/7 security, because he just had the one comment, and then you can address Mrs. Larson's comments.
At this time, we're not prepared to provide 24/7 security. However, I will say we're happy to have the conversation with Mr. Raj and see what that would look like and what he would expect there. But I can't guarantee you that we will have 24-hour security. There will be a gate. But as far as personnel, I can't tell you that right now.
Let me just ask you a question, because
Sure.
I did have it in my notes to ask about that. So you just stated that the front entrance will be gated.
Thank you. This one? If you, oh, I can see it here. Can you see it on this one?
Madam Chair, I might be able to address a few of the questions and comments while the presentation
looking.
gets rewound, so to speak.
Okay.
Um,
I definitely want to hear about the gate and where the
Yeah.
gate would be
So
located.
there's no gate proposed currently. The Avenue E
Fence.
connection
I
is
should've said
actually
fence. I'm
a
sorry.
public right-of-way, so that would be open. The east and west roadway would be a private street. However, because of what we would say stacking issues on Broadway, there's really not enough distance to have a gate. If you can imagine, if there was one or two vehicles waiting to make that turn, it would stack up and it would be a traffic issue. So because of some of that queuing concern, there's not enough throw distance in the roadway to actually have a gate there. So there's no gate currently proposed.
I meant to
and-
say fence, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Not a
and
gate.
I don't, there is a fence and a nice perimeter wall along US 1. But no gate is proposed at this time, and quite honestly, I don't think there could be one in the future based on the design of the site.
Interesting. So there will be no gate at the front entrance, and if and when Avenue E is completed or developed or redone, there'll be no gate at that entrance or exit either.
That's correct, and one of the conditions of approval of this project is to make that connection on Avenue E to 34th Street. So that northern connection is one of the conditions of approval that the development team will have to complete as part of this project.
Okay, so no gate and no 24-hour security at this point.
That's correct.
Okay. So you can proceed.
I have a note about commercial along this corridor as opposed to residential. I'll just say that with regard to commercial development, so what often happens, or the way development generally trends tend to work, is that the people come first and then the commercial comes around it. So again, in the area, you already have residential. That's what I meant by consistent. And then across the street, you have commercial. So the townhomes, the residential townhomes, are a good transition between the single-family homes and the commercial that are across the street from there. So again, what generally happens, the general pattern of development is that people come first and then the commercial follows. The commercial doesn't always come first because they don't have any people around to shop at the places that they build.
Okay. The parking issue,
So we
Sorry.
provide 100 and, I have to check my notes, 180. 178 parking spaces are required, and we provide 278 parking spaces. The other thing to note with regard to our plan is on the end units, for example, does this move? So these would be considered the end units here. There are, the driveways can maintain rather 4 cars, and there's a garage also for each of the end units. Similarly, the interior units have parking spaces in the driveway for 2 cars and additional cars in the garage. In addition to that, as you can see on the site plan, we have parking here, here, and here. So, again, we believe that we have met and actually exceeded what's required by code with regard to parking for the site.
okay, Ms. Calhoun, I'm a little confused about the parking because the paperwork that I'm looking at says the driveway parking is 118, the parking lot is 70 for a total of 188.
Is that the original justification?
And you just stated it's 278. Where are 278 parking spaces there?
So what I understand, let me take one. Go back to Andrea's diagram.
So there's another sheet within the
Right, it
packet.
had the red and the green, and the
Yeah,
green was
yeah,
the...
it's somewhat a unique plan because what it does is call out required parking spots and then what staff has considered additional parking spots per our code. So one of the talking points that Ms. Calhoun brought up before was the fact that the city does not allow parking garages to count towards total parking. So if an owner does choose to utilize their garage space for a vehicle, they can do so, and that would generate more parking spaces. But we've found that over time, those spaces aren't used for vehicles, they're used for storage. And
right.
because it's such a difficult thing to monitor or regulate, we basically say, look, we want to have the garage space, but we can't allow it to count towards total parking counts.
Understandably,
So
yes.
what this diagram shows is the total number of parking. The red spots are designated required parking spots. The green are what we're considering visitor parking spots. Of course, those can be, interchanged depending on what the demand is. So some of those auxiliary parking areas could be used for required versus visitor. But I thought this was a really interesting way of graphically identifying the total parking on site. And I'll move aside if there's any other comments from Ms. Harper or Ms. Calhoun.
Okay, let's look at this for a minute. Let's take, for example, the townhome D, 6 units. Okay, so you have 2 red, which signifies existing parking, so it's 2 cars right behind each other. So that's 2 and that's 4. So is that, trying to see where these doors are located to see how this parking lines up. So it's just 2 basically per unit, but you're counting the 2 as not in the garage, but outside, right behind each other. And then the additional parking lot with the, how many exactly are there in the parking lot? Is it 70 or is it more than 70? Where all of the green spaces are?
46.
So can you do just like a breakdown? Let me see, I did calculate this out. So in the packet is driveway 118 parking spaces. And then it says parking lot 70 for a total of 188. Is that correct?
Okay, let me, per code, it's required, two parking spaces per code, okay?
Right, so it's
we have
89 townhomes times 2 is 178.
Uh-huh.
So
And
that's, so I'm thinking all of those 178 would be the red per townhome, 2 per townhome, and then that only leaves 10 extra for a total of 188.
They're giving us 100 over for guests. Can you see the chart up here in your packet? Are you looking at that? It gives you your breakdown.
This is upside down. Oh, yeah, I didn't see it broken out like this in the packet.
And we realize that there's a shortage in Riviera Beach as far as parking, and that's why we pressed on the applicant to provide more parking, and we didn't want the residents to park in the middle of the right-of-way, so that's,
Can we blow that up so the public can see that chart? If we
Just
can't
listen,
blow it up, then
but
I'll read it
we
into the
didn't-
record.
Chair, we didn't want them to park in this right-of-way right here,
Right.
you know, and that would be a health, safety issue because we got fire trucks going through here, they can't get through.
Right.
So that's why we asked for the additional parking, guest parking, so when you do have visitors, nobody won't park in the right-of-way.
Okay.
So normally, a parking ratio for guests, for every 4 units, you try to have a guest parking space. So they gave us more than enough.
Okay. I would just like for the public to see that so they understand what the parking looks like.
So this is zooming into the parking chart that's being referenced. And what I can say is there were multiple iterations of the plan, and Ms. Harper definitely worked with the development team to make sure that these satellite lots were provided on the plan, and they're also spaced throughout the development, so that way, you know, if there is a need for guest parking at one end versus the other, there'll be ample parking throughout the site. So the proposal before you far exceeds what the current parking requirements are for the city.
Okay, thank you. That makes more sense to me. Okay. So the next item, Ms. Calhoun, was addressing the owner operated for a year.
So that's a condition of approval, a staff-generated condition of approval, and we've agreed to that.
So explain what that means. So that means that these units are going to be for sale?
These are for sale units, and what the condition of approval means that within the first year of ownership, they cannot be rented, the units cannot be rented.
Okay.
The city's goal is to encourage, I don't want to tell you the city's goal.
No, yeah, and for reference, I'm sorry, you know, the city definitely wants to encourage home ownership. This was the same condition of approval that was used for the 13th floor development project, the Arbor Park development project on Mediterranean, which has been successful to date. I think that if we can provide that condition up front, then it kind of doesn't prohibit, but it will persuade a potential investor from coming in and buying multiple units at once when we have other local residents that want to have their own home, and this will give them a better opportunity to achieve that goal.
How do we plan to stay on top of that, to regulate that?
So what happens is for any rental, and again, this is if the process is followed properly, but if an applicant comes in, or a new property owner comes in and attempts to get a rental license from the city, we'll check the background information, look at the sales records, and see whether or not it's been sold within that year's time frame. So it's really a monitoring effort by city staff, and also we're trying to work with development teams to provide that information early on to any sort of prospective buyer, so that way they're well aware of that condition of approval, which would move forward with the resolution as well and be memorialized in that way.
Okay. And then the next thing, since we're talking about, you know, the owner-operated price, what is the expected
market
price point?
Market rate, I don't know if they've determined that. Thank you very much. The mid to upper twos, 200,000.
Okay. Another thing was who is going to pay for the extension for Avenue E?
So the north end, the developer is doing now as a part of the construction of the development. The south end, we have agreed to allow whoever comes in to develop that south end will probably end up doing that work. Where it's green now, that's where Avenue E is going to go through. So one of our conditions of approval is that we will work with whoever that ultimate developer is to allow them access to finish that construction.
So right now, no one has been secured to do that.
To the best of my knowledge, there's no one else developing that southern mobile home park.
Oh, okay. Let's see what you're saying.
And this was, again, the city, and the city can speak to it, this was the city's desire and goal to connect to Avenue E and have it run through the city.
Yes, Madam Chair, our comprehensive plan speaks to the fact that Avenue E is hopefully one day going to become a full thoroughfare. So part of that goal is as new development proposals come through, there's connectivity through each one of those phases. So the same way that this is the first block of the puzzle, and we're asking them to make the initial connection, when the second block comes in, we'll ask the next development team to continue that connection process.
Thank you. And I know in our packet, somewhere within these 199 pages, it broke out the units. Like, I remember there's one building that's gonna house
Which
7
building has-
units. So if we can just put that page up where it gives the breakdown of how many, it's 16 buildings, how many units per building.
I don't have that slide in the PowerPoint, but in your package, in your site plan package, maybe, I don't think it's in yours either.
Yeah, I think it's on the same drawing with the proposed parking.
The city, yeah, that's in the city's presentation, so they can.
I think she's applying for this one.
So on the site plan, and do you want me to try to scan through the actual PDF copy?
Well, I'm counting
I don't see an
now.
overall breakdown, but we can add them up really quickly here. I know the information's somewhere, I'm just not sure where it is in the packet, but I'll start on the northwest. I'm sorry, you want your
I
item?
was gonna just help you. You go ahead.
Yeah, on the north west unit, so.
Oh, I
first
have it
unit.
in my packet. I wanted it to be explained for the public because there was a question on the comment card about that.
So that first, I'll go by blocks. So let's say we block it down into 4 blocks, or break it down into 4 blocks. The northwest unit is, northwest building is comprised of 6 units. And if you travel east, the next building is 7 units, followed by a 5-unit building and then a 6-unit building. When you cross over Avenue E heading east, the next building is 5 units, followed by 7 units, and then 5 units completes that block. If you go south from that point, that building is comprised of 4 units. The next building to the west is also 4 units, followed by a 6-unit building and another 6-unit building. Crossing over Avenue E to the west is a 6-unit building, followed by another 6-unit building, third 6-unit building, a 5-unit building, and finally a 5-unit building completes the development proposal.
So I think if I counted correctly, there's 4 units that are going to be 4 units, 5 units, 7 units that are 6, and there's 2 buildings that are 7 units. So I hope that question is confirmed. It's a mixture between 4 units, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? All right, so I'm ready for the next comment card.
Is there another one?
No, you're good right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So I'm going to continue with the next person to come up to the microphone, Millet DeAngles.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Millet
Evening.
DeAngelis, and I recently just moved into Riviera Beach at 100 Federal Highway. And I'm actually living with a friend right now, so this kind of came across, I heard about it, and I was, being someone who's currently looking for kind of my own permanent place to live, I was definitely excited to see kind of something newer in the area. And I understand I'm new to the area, so I don't want to speak on behalf of the community. But I personally think, in my opinion, that I think it would be something good for the community. A couple months ago, I used to always go to Broadway Joe's that was right on Broadway Ave, and they had some of my favorite Philly cheesesteaks for lunch. And then one day I met the manager there, and he explained to me kind of lunch hour is the only time they get business. And then a couple weeks later, I saw they went out of business. And I was just thinking, with more people living a development like this, I think a lot more people would be getting dinner right around Riviera Beach. So I think it would be good for the community and me personally looking for housing. I think it would be something good. So I just wanted to come out and show my own support for it.
Oh, okay,
Thank you,
thank
guys.
you. And welcome. Next up, we'll have Centrella Hines Bergman.
Good evening. My name is Centralia Hines Bergman. I reside at 111 West 34th Street in the beautiful city of Riviera Beach. My question is, I know they're taking it through Avenue E and there are existing homes where we are, and that there is a small lot that sits right there, Avenue E. And how would that affect our existing homes that are right there? Because you will almost have to go through the home to widen that area for an open area to come off of 34th Street. Also, we have fencing in our back area. What will happen to our fencing? Because now you have to take down our fencing in order to take a road to go through Avenue E. Are they planning on putting up a big wall down the whole strip, or how would our homes be affected in that area? Also, with them not having any type of security, I've been over there since 1998 in my home. 34th Street and Broadway can get a little busy with people coming in our community that does not live in our community. So with them not having any type of security, I see where more homeless people will be able to just drive in. Any kind of guest that would be able to drive in that does not live in our community and just park and just, I think that would bring more crime to our area without having any type of security there. Also, my recommend would be having an elderly community, to open it up to the elderly. Because are we targeting first-time buyers programs for the residents or anything like that? And I know they say they're going to be bringing in children. And then are there going to be adequate space for busing to come in there for the children to be able to have these children bus to school? And who's going to be there to make sure it's upkept? Because you're not going to have any kind of security or anything in there, and the place can go down in no time if they don't have anybody in there to keep it up. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Bergman.
You're welcome.
I don't know if staff or the applicant wants to respond to those questions.
We can tag team like we did last time.
Okay.
Maybe. With regard to maintenance, there will be a homeowners association that will be able to maintain and make sure the property is maintained. Maintenance of the price. Bus, there is, it was pointed out on an earlier slide, on the east side, there's a shelter here that will serve for a place for people to enjoy, actually it's right about here, for people to watch their children while they're at the tot lot. It also serves as a shelter for buses for children who are getting on the bus. They will be here, and their parents, again, can watch them get on and off the bus.
So that's going to be enough room for a bus to turn in and pick up kids from the development?
It's not turning in, stop me if I say it wrong, it's
You're
not
going to
turning
stop
in.
on Broadway?
It stops on Broadway, yes. There's the current existing stop, yeah.
Going to
Palm
be a
Trans, okay.
traffic.
Yeah, there will be an existing, that will pull off right off of Broadway, yeah. It doesn't go into the community, which is not an uncommon.
It's not uncommon, but, you know, in the morning, because sometimes I take that route to
Thank you.
work, and being that it's, you know, very narrow, it can cause traffic backup. And then when they're dropping them off, they're going to have to drop them off on the opposite side.
So the reason that this stop is here is that we did meet, WGI did meet with the school board, and that's how this location was agreed upon.
So that's going to be a two-prong. That's going to be basically for the school board, for school buses, and for like public transportation?
No.
Because when I was reading the
current- it's
packet,
currently
it was
palm
my understanding that the bus canopy was for public transportation.
That one is this up at the north end, and then the other bus shelter is here that we're speaking of. The school bus is
There's going to
here,
be two.
public is here, yes.
Okay.
I think, does that answer that question?
It was an explanation, yes.
Okay. Next, I think there was a question about, I assume, the question is about this parcel of land here, and it's currently vacant, to the best of our knowledge, so we're not taking anything down. Remember, this was a mobile home park that is currently vacant, it's been vacant for some time, so there's no home here for us to need to do anything with. Again, we're just extending Avenue E, so there's nothing here for us to remove. Not a fence or a home or anything else. It is a vacant lot.
Okay, and then there was a question about the fencing. What does that look like, and how would it affect the surrounding property owners?
So along this southern end of the property, there will be a fence, probably the word just left my head. No, that's not the word. Chain link, that's what I was thinking. Fence along here, and then this will likely be a decorative fence along the eastern boundary. And as required by code, this will be a wall on the north end and on the west end.
Okay. And then it was also brought up again about the security.
So, the one thing I'll say about that comment that was made is that this community is designed to be just that, a community, as a part of an existing community. We have, again, single-family homes to our north and to our west. I don't believe that these are gated communities at the moment, so this is intended to just, again, become a part of the community. The developer didn't feel the need to, I'll say, separate it by creating that type of barrier there. And again, stacking for traffic wouldn't allow us to do so anyway. So the existing condition that's around us is what we are matching. There's no, to the best of my knowledge, gate at the mobile home park preventing people from coming in and out. Similarly, currently, there are no gates with regard to these single-family home areas that surround our project. So this will just be similar to what's already existing.
So we have high hopes that there would be no crime, being that there's not going to be any security, any gates. I mean, the price point you said was the 200s, but after that year, when people are able to rent out the property, and they can put whoever they want to in there. Because we've just had several developments within the city that have had basically like the same concept, but are gated and were owner occupied. I mean, I can speak on it, Marsh Harbor, and that started off one way, being gated, owner occupied, and then, the developers came in, bought up everything, and put a lot of renters in there. And then you had one period of time where there was a lot of crime. And it took several years to get that area cleaned back up.
So one benefit that we have here is you have a national developer who, again, is going to have an HOA that's going to regulate this community, so they will make sure that it is maintained well. It benefits them as much as everyone else to have a well-maintained and safe community. It would not benefit them to know, for anyone to know that, oh, they built here and it wasn't well-kept, it wasn't maintained well, or it wasn't safe. So it
Just
benefits
saying,
really everyone.
We've seen it before,
Understood. Understood.
a couple different times here in the city.
Understood.
Let me see if, and then the last comment was about maybe making it, an elderly community. So,
Well, thank you for the comment. We appreciate it. We'll keep it in mind, maybe for the next one.
okay. So, thank you, Ms. Calhoun. I have one last comment card on this issue, and that's from John Pollock.
Hi, good evening. I'm John Pollock, and I've been a property owner along 34th Street for over 35 years as a landlord, and I have several rentals there. And my concern, well, first of all, let me say this, that I'm hopeful that the project is successful. I've, like the owner of the hotel, for years had to put up with a lot of problems with the mobile home park and the residents who, a lot of times, were not even residents, they were just squatters living in there, and the amount of crime that they generated. However, I think that can be dealt with, and you know, you're not going to have that situation again. But my other concern, I looked at the traffic reports online on the city of Riviera Beach, and I am somewhat concerned about how much traffic is going to be between Broadway and then westbound on 34th Street up to Avenue E, their proposed entrance, and all the way up to Avenue F. Currently, the street has one speed hump in it, which doesn't really slow down a lot of the traffic at this point. There's people that go along 34th Street at way greater than 40 miles an hour, you know, and you got little kids out there and so on. Everybody has seen it. So I'm a little concerned about that. I want to know if there's any plans to make more speed bumps. Additionally, I think that over the years, it's been quite evident that as far as pedestrian traffic goes on 34th Street from Broadway and then westward and then along Avenue F, that the pedestrian walkways are very inadequate. Some properties don't even have a sidewalk in front of them, and pedestrians have to walk along the street on the sidewalk, and then they have to go out in the street to continue westward. Some of them are very narrow. They would never withstand a code examination by the city at this point. They're very old and some in disrepair. So I'm wondering, you know, if there's any plans for improvement along 34th Street to improve the traffic, not flow, but maybe the flow and also the restriction of speed, and also making it more pedestrian friendly. I'm sure with the amount of 89 townhomes, there's going to be some pedestrian traffic go through there, and a lot of kids. They get off the school bus at Avenue E and 34th Street, and it's a pretty good crowd that goes through there at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I guess that's about it, but I am hopeful that whatever kinks there are in the foreseeable future, they can be worked out.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock. I'll have staff address those questions about future improvements to 34th Street, sidewalks, speed bumps.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't recall off the top of my head if there's any ongoing plans for 34th Street improvements. I know there's various projects throughout the city that are underway. I would have to follow up on that specific question, but the comment is definitely received, and I can provide that information to the board and public at a future date.
Would you know?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Would you know offhand how well lighted that area is?
As far as
Street lighting?
street lighting on 34th Street?
Right. And eventually, I'm going to ask about within the development,
Right.
the proposed development.
So within the development, it would have to be brought up to current codes. However, the existing conditions on 34th Street, I don't think would be up to what we would consider modern-day standards as far as street lighting. Similar to, you know, the pedestrian access, it's something that we're looking to address throughout the city still. So I think they are older conditions that are not optimal to today's standards, is how I would put it.
Okay, I'm hearing that there's about 2 street light poles in that area. 4? Yeah. Okay, so now if we can address the lighting within the development, because I didn't see anything about lighting in the packet. There's
Yeah,
going to be no
I
security,
believe
so.
photometric plans were provided. I'm not sure if I include them in the packet itself. I may have to ask the development team or staff to comment on that. I also did want to touch upon the city's process for any sort of speed attenuation device or a speed hump. It's kind of by request, so we
By
do
request from the citizens or
Yes,
from
ma'am.
the applicant?
from the citizens.
Okay.
And those are considered on a case-by-case basis, so if the development proposal moves forward and there's increased traffic demand, then it's something that the city would look at a case-by-case basis.
I didn't know that. I have one right in front of my house that I never asked for. And I
Maybe it was a
hear it.
neighbor.
I hear it all day long, gosh. But anyway, okay. So, I'm sorry. We addressed the lighting for, in the development, you said it'll be code.
Right, the new lighting will meet today's standard code requirements. Unfortunately, it's difficult in existing communities to retroactively, go in and do those lighting plans. So I know that with a lot of the roadway reconstruction projects, they're what we consider a full reconstruction project, so it's considering pedestrian connectivity, lighting elements, things of that nature. And I'll have to verify if 34th is in one of our upcoming capital improvement plan elements.
Okay. Ms. Calhoun, I have one more question for the applicant, I think, before I move on to board comments. Since there is going to be no on-site security, do you guys plan on having any security cameras on-site?
We talked about that? I don't think we can explore, we can look into that. I can tell you that on the current site plan, I don't believe there are any. I mean, remember, this is a residential community. People own their homes, so if they're going to have their own individual security, they can. If there would be any type of cameras, it would have to be in the public places, for example, the tot lot or the rec area, because again, this is a townhome, single-family home community, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I'm going to go into board comments. Mr. Brown, first up.
No comments.
No comments. Mrs. Shepherd.
Ms. Calhoun. First, let me say welcome to the city. I read it yesterday, and I think this is going to be an excellent project in that quarter. There is a lot of in that area, and I think the homes is going to kind of deteriorate. And this is a project that I really think is going to bring a lot of clout to this city. So I welcome you. I remember you coming back with another project, and so good to see you here
Thank
today. And only thing I can say is welcome to the city.
Thank
This
you.
is excellent.
We're excited, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Mr. Gallen?
No comment.
No comments. On to Mr. Gustafson.
One question, Chair.
Go ahead.
This is a question for staff more than anything. I'm looking at the Broadway corridor, and I believe there's an island outside of that, so traffic in and out of the community would always have to be coming from northbound, is that correct?
That's correct. There's a
So egress is always from the
divider.
north side?
So it would have to, there's no access north if you're heading west. So there is a divider on US 1 on Broadway, so
Okay.
that's correct.
So what does that do to traffic concerns to the north end of the city? Coming back to, where I'm getting here is with the bus stop. There's the public bus stop as well as the children's school bus stop. With the divider there, is that going to hinder traffic flow southbound on Broadway in any capacity?
Well, I'm not a traffic engineer, and I don't want to
Sure.
try to be one, but what I can say is the current location of the Palm Tran bus stop is going to stay where it is. So of course, there'll be the opportunity for increased demand, which is something that we want by having this development proposal move forward. But that action by the bus would remain constant as is. As the development team stated, they did have communication with the school board as far as what would be acceptable for their bus route. And it would kind of be, depending on the number of children living there, what route would have to be utilized. There is a possibility that it could be through, the backside through Avenue E, Avenue F as well, for a school bus, but again, I'm not as familiar with what that route
Sure.
could potentially be.
So in conjunction with that, so I'm a townhome owner in the community, and I'm going northbound on Broadway, and I can't make a left into there. So therefore, I would have to, is there an opening at 34th to make a left-hand turn? I'm trying to get home. It's
5
six,
o'clock
it's
traffic.
5 o'clock traffic, I'm going north on Broadway, how do I get to my house?
I can answer that question. I am the traffic engineer for the project.
Oh,
For the
terrific.
record, Juan
Hi.
Ortega, traffic engineer for the project. There are different ways to get into the project. So if you're going northbound, what's going to happen is you're going to make a U-turn on Broadway if you want. That's option number one. Or you can make a left into 34th and then go south on Avenue E. Because we are building Avenue E from the project to West 34th Street. So if you're going northbound on Broadway, that's an option. If you're going southbound on Broadway, you may want to go on 34th Street. Any of the streets that connect to Silver Beach, you can go there and then go southbound on Avenue E. Now, in the morning, if you're leaving the project to go southbound, the easiest thing would be to go eastbound in the project and make a right out to go southbound. As part of the analysis, we checked the stacking on the turn lanes for the people that may want to do a U-turn to go northbound, for the people coming in the evening, and the turn lanes will be more than adequate to hold all the existing and projected traffic. We did counts for the existing conditions, we added our project, and the stacking works for the project.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I did have another question that I omitted, and this will probably be for staff. The surrounding homeowners and businesses, were they notified? Because I also, of course, didn't see that in the packet. I know we did have,
Sure.
we do have one homeowner here. I just like to know, how more homeowners, and we heard from only one, we heard from one business owner of what they thought about this project. So just for the record, how were they notified?
Sure. As part of the land use amendment process and also the zoning amendment proposal, the city requires that the property is posted, so there were signs posted on the property in advance of today's meeting. And additionally, there were mailouts that were provided to any property within 300 feet of the development. Because, the Avenue E connection is such a vital component of this project as well, city staff and the development team communicated as far as going out and physically, knocking on doors with those two adjacent property owners, which we have confirmation that occurred. So they have had conversation, the fact that the project's coming before the Planning and Zoning Board and potentially moving forward, and the information I received from the development team is that both those property owners are in support of the project, and we did not receive any objection to the project to date.
Okay. My last question, I think. We didn't talk about how many bedrooms these units were going to have. So do the bedrooms, so they range between 1 to 4, or is it just 2 to 4, 5? I'm just thinking I need that information to kind of calculate how many people are going to be squeezed into this area.
Good evening, Doug Murray with WGI. On behalf of the applicant, they will actually all be 3-bedroom units.
Also, all 3-bedroom
Yes.
units. Okay, thank you. Are there any more comments from the board at this time? Seeing none. Is there a motion?
Chair,
Yes, Mr. Gustafson?
wouldn't we have to put motions in order of A, B, and C?
Yes.
Chair, I make a motion to adjust the comprehensive plan for the land use. Is that correct? That's on the first one. Amending the city's comprehensive plan by changing the future land use map designation from high density, multiple family, future land use 5.3 of the property to downtown mixed use.
Okay, is there a second? Roll call?
Margaret Shepherd.
Yes.
James Gallen.
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
John Gustafson.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, is there a motion for item B, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach to change the city zoning map from downtown residential to downtown general?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Margaret Shepherd. James Gallen.
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
John Gustafson.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item C, is there a motion for the City Council of Riviera Beach approving a site plan application, SP 18-09 from D.R. Horton, Inc. for the real property located at 3301 Broadway, 9.5 acres of land in order to facilitate the development of 89 new townhomes and providing for an effective date?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Margaret Shepherd.
Yes.
James Gallen.
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
John Gustafson.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item D, is there a motion for approving the plat application, PA 18-02 from D.R. Horton, Inc. for the real property located at 3301 Broadway for 9.5 acres of land in order to facilitate the development of 89 new townhomes and providing for an effective date?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Margaret Shepherd.
Yes.
James Gallen.
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
John Gustafson.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Item E.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Item E is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the application for off-site valet parking per City Code Section 31-580 at 1100 East Blue Heron Boulevard for use by the Buccaneer Restaurant, located at 142 Lake Drive, within the town of Palm Beach Shores, and providing for an effective date. And I also want to add for the record that this was added on Friday, just as an additional agenda item, so it went out the day after the Thursday release. So as referenced in the title block, City Code Section 31-580 allows for property owners or businesses within the town of Palm Beach Shores to make application to the City Council to utilize city properties for valet parking for those existing uses, so long as certain conditions are met. For the record, there is a staff analysis provided in the backup for tonight, as well as correspondence from the applicant themselves. So before you, you see two yellow stars on an aerial map of Singer Island, including Riviera Beach and Palm Beach Shores. The yellow star on the north side of the map is 1100 East Blue Heron Boulevard, so that's the subject site in question. And the existing use, the Buccaneer Restaurant located at 141 Lake Drive, is denoted here as a red star. That distance is just over 1,700 feet if you were traveling along Lake Drive. So within the staff analysis, it requires certain checkboxes to be reviewed. One is off-site parking, and that relates to the amount of off-site parking on that Palm Beach Shore business or ownership site, kind of exceeding what they could possibly include or expand upon. And then also that any sort of potential adverse impact on the city property would not be incurred if this valet parking request were to be approved. And I also want to make note that the location that is in question previously served as a bank building, so that use would have had, a 24-hour ATM, so there could have been around-the-clock vehicles going to and from the site. So if that use were to continue in the future, so if someone came in and applied for a business tax receipt for that use tomorrow, we would honor that previous business use. So there could be vehicular access on a 24-hour basis. So that was kind of the comparison that staff was utilizing for this request as well. So the applicant has stated within their correspondence that there's no other on-site parkings at their current site, so that's what's facilitating this request and necessitating the request to move forward. Law enforcement activities is the second bullet point that staff must review. Specifically, the amount and degree of law enforcement activities generated by operating the off-site valet parking business. So it will be the applicant's responsibility to secure the site, secure any vehicles. The applicant does own both parcels currently. Also, police department has recommended that there's a security system, a camera system installed to help monitor any vehicles on site. And the valet proposal is not anticipated to generate any additional impact that would be greater than the previous bank use. The third talking point was the effect on neighboring properties, specifically the adverse effects, if any, that the off-site valet parking will have on neighboring properties, especially with respect to the effects of noise, parking, and glare from headlights on nearby residential properties. So this site is adjacent to East Blue Heron Boulevard. It's one of our major arterial roadways in the city. So there'll already be vehicular traffic based on that. Referring back to the bank use that was previously there, this request should not generate any additional impacts as far as vehicular impacts to the site than the previous bank use. The next talking point was noise. Specifically, such approval shall be granted only to those businesses that will not disturb the peace and quiet of the surrounding neighborhood. Staff really does not anticipate any noise impacts generated that would be greater than the previous bank use. And also, we have our noise ordinance that any business would have to adhere to and would be enforceable into the future. The final talking point is the vehicle route, which I talked about briefly. The Lake Drive route is the clear route that would be used. There's a traffic light on Blue Heron Boulevard that would allow access across the street to both sites. It's approximately 1,700 feet, maybe closer to 1,750 feet from site to site. And use of that route would not create any additional hazardous conditions. So this concludes staff analysis of the application. I believe the applicant is here tonight as well to answer any questions that the board or public may have.
So staff is recommends approval?
Well, staff is recommending board review and analysis. What I can say is that the criteria that are set in the code have all been met. However, we're leaving it up to the board to review the information that's provided and provide a recommendation to City Council.
Okay. Can you put page 3 of 3 up just for the recommendation?
Oops, I'm sorry. Let me pull that up for you.
Okay, so I'll start off with public comments. I have one public comment card from Bonnie Larson.
Bonnie Larson, I couldn't quite get my bearing on that map, what was where. I didn't know which was east and which was west. I couldn't really get it. But apparently there's a restaurant, the Buccaneer Restaurant. It's on Palm Beach Shores. This is what I got. Palm Beach Shores. They want to use city property for their valet parking. No? Okay, well, that's what I got. So you tell me what's right. You're talking about a previous bank building. Are we talking about the previous Bank of America building? It's on the north side of Blue Heron? Is that what, I just can't get my bearings here. Is that what we're talking about? Did they tear that bank down? Now we want to use it for parking for a restaurant? Do we own that property? Is it paved? How many spaces would be there? And they said it wouldn't be any more noise or glare or whatever than it was as a bank building. Well, yeah, well, because the bank building, they're only open till 4. On Fridays, they're open till 6. And this would be a restaurant. They're going to be open late at night. So, yeah, there will be a lot more traffic there than what it is now. Are they asking, if we own that property, are they asking us to lease it? Are they asking us to use it for free? I don't understand the request. This whole thing I didn't get. They're going to be using it for valet parking. They'll make money on that. It'll be beneficial to their restaurant. So if you could answer all those questions about the location, the paving, the parking, how many spots do they have at their restaurant now? And what are we thinking about? Are we thinking about leasing that to them? Is the area paved? And like I said, yes, it will be a lot more traffic to the surrounding area than a bank. A bank closes at 4. So if you could explain that, because I just didn't quite get it from the map. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Larson. The applicant would like to answer those questions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Ed Stacker, and I'm an attorney with Schutz & Bowen. And I'm here. It's my pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of the Buccaneer, as well as the owner of the old Wells Fargo Bank building. This is not, as you all probably know, this is not city-owned property. This purchase was made in, I think it was in September of 2017, and there will ultimately be longer range redevelopment plans, probably on that 1100 on the Riviera Beach parcel, but for the period of time that we're talking about now, we're looking for we're doing some renovations at the Buccaneer Restaurant and Lounge and would like to utilize this otherwise vacant parcel for valet parking. And Madam Chair, I think you was good to point out this page, because this, we've reviewed the staff report and concur with Jeff's analysis, but the recommendations comes with a set of conditions that we have reviewed and are agreeable to, and that's on those are on the page that you're speaking to or spoke to a moment ago. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. I don't know if I clarified the location. This bank old bank building is on the north side of Blue Heron. And was the old Wells Fargo, and it's privately owned. Yes, yes. As far as valet usage, there will be a valet attendant there, and there's likely to be security monitoring system as well. And it's in our best interest to not have any vandalism. Obviously, you don't want to have invitees to your facility come and park and have difficulties. But we realize that the town and the city of Riviera Beach have worked hand in hand for years with some off-site valet parking agreements. And In fact, at one point, this piece had one years ago with Riviera Beach. It's an opportunity to enhance this property to a certain extent, and also work with us and the town of Palm Beach Shores, and I would encourage you all to recommend approval.
Thank you. I have a question. You said that you're representing the applicant and the owner of the bank?
They're the same
That
entity.
property?
Same entity.
Same entity, okay.
I mean,
so it's
different
owned-
entity, but same ownership, principal.
Okay.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the hours of operation, that was another comment that Ms. Larson stated that I haven't heard yet.
Well, there are, we haven't, obviously, the valet parking would be during the period of time of the operation of the facility and of the Buccaneer, and I'm not here, I don't know what those hours will be, but they certainly won't be any later than if I pull up to get through the drive-through to get money out of the ATM at the bank. And I don't mean that smart alecky, but I mean that I would imagine that they would be reasonable business hours of restaurants, et cetera.
Do you know the current hours of the business that operates?
Well, right
Buccaneer?
now, it's not operating, it's under renovation, and I think we would be remiss to put an hour limitation on it.
On the valet?
Yes. I mean, it's not going to be operating all night, obviously. It's going to be operating during the business hours of the facility.
And Buccaneers is a restaurant lounge?
Restaurant, yes, and they serve alcohol there, yes.
Okay, how, in the past when they were open, how late did they generally stay open? Was it to 2? Was it closed at midnight?
It's right next to the Sailfish, and they close at the same time.
Whatever, the Sailfish is to the south, and I don't want to misrepresent. I'm not sure. That's a fair.
Sir, are you the owner for Buccaneers?
I work for you.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a clear idea of the operating hours.
Right, it's not an all-night club or bar, it's a restaurant, and we close that restaurant normal hours. But like you just said, we haven't set the time, it's still being built, so we don't have that.
Could he come
Okay.
to the mic, please?
I'm done.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
okay.
speaking from the floor. Sorry about that.
I'll let you know where it was.
Okay.
So we don't have any hours notated right now, so we've addressed Ms. Larson's public comments. I'm going to move on to board comments. Ms. Shepherd?
Well, I kind of like to know where it's at, and once again, I think it's time for us to get some type of dining going on in our city, and I welcome you to come.
Thank you very much.
I think it'd be a very nice concept for us to start getting back in the mode of having nice, fine dining. I hope dancing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Close the piano bar.
Okay, Mr. Gallen, excuse me, Ms. Shepherd, are you
Yes,
done?
I'm finished.
Okay, Mr. Gallen?
I really don't have any comments, but I would like to have known what the hours would have been, but I don't have any issues.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Are you looking to acquire permanent parking eventually?
I'm sorry?
Are you looking to acquire permanent parking later on?
Well, the layout, the configuration of the bank parcel will be restriped for parking, et cetera. And if I understand your question is, if there were to be another use there on that property at some time in the future, we would
have to come back to you all and work to accommodate parking for joint parking.
I think that the question, Mr. Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, in the future, will it be, are you going to be seeking permanent parking as part of the restaurant?
Yes, the owner is actively searching for
Okay.
property to
So,
purchase.
okay, so I
I
gotta have.
misunderstood the question. I apologize.
No problem. I got to have the person at the microphone speak, or, you know, if you are with the company, then I need you to come up and state your name for the record.
This is Mr. Stuart Granfield. He's the architect, and I think what he represented is the owner is looking for other permanent parking as well.
In the future.
Yes.
Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair, as well, and I did make this clear before, and I do apologize for it, the city code section describes this approval as an annual approval.
Mhm.
So this is
Yeah.
not something that's anticipated to be permanent. It would have to be renewed by city council on an annual basis. So this would be good for a one-year time period if it were to move forward, and then a renewal process would have to occur.
Okay. Were those all of your questions,
That's
Mr.
it.
Brown? Mr. Gustafson.
Chair, one question.
Okay.
I understand this is a temporary or a one-year structured agreement with the city for temporary valet parking. My question to you is, how is that valet parking going to work in conjunction with the Buccaneer itself? Are the occupants going to be dropping the car off at the Buccaneer, and the valet will drive the car down, and then the car will be parked by the valet attendant? But how does that valet attendant get back? Is he going to be using a golf cart? Is he on foot? Are there going to have patrons on golf carts or anything like that?
Well, you're correct that if I were coming to dine, I would pull up at the Buccaneer, and the valet would take it down to and obviously there will be multiple personnel, and it could be that there's a golf cart used. It could be that there's, there's all told, I guess in theory, somebody could walk back, but I don't envision that happening. I would think there would be some type of mobility utilized.
I just want to be clear that, I'm in favor of this decision, but at the same time, I want to be safety conscious for road safety for the valets on a golf cart. I want to make sure that's a legal licensed vehicle that people are coming back and forth on.
Yes.
And no patron should be in that golf cart at any time.
We understand, yes.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So the owner is Island Chapel LLC, Benjamin Sharif?
Sharfie.
Sharfie? Okay, because I just don't see the application in here. I don't see an actual application in here for this. And then my other question is going to be for staff.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but on that, in your backup, there should be our letter application of February 27th.
Madam Chair, I think you're looking for our usual uniform land use application.
Right.
And with this instance, the code identifies that a petition is acceptable as
As an applicant.
initiating the request.
Okay.
So we follow that code provision. That's why you don't see the typical application.
So Mr. Sharfie is a principal in both properties, although the fee simple title is held in different entities.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I interrupted you as you were going to ask Jeff a question.
No problem. This question is for staff. How would we, because it's not really an application, it's a petition, so how does this work with the business tax receipt? is there going to be a business tax receipt issued for this because it's just valet parking?
Well, the city's code identifies that any business use or every business use does need a business tax receipt.
Right, 'cause they will
I
be
don't
collecting
recall off the top of my
fines.
head if there's a specific valet parking use that's called out. But what the code does allow staff to do is take the most similar use within our schedule or chart to assign a business tax receipt, and we can also key in specifically what the use is. So that would probably be the method that staff would have to move forward with.
And Madam Chair, we anticipate that we will, in fact, be purchasing a business license with the city, yes.
Right, because I'm assuming that that business tax receipt would go under the name of the Buccaneer, with this specified as the use would be valet. Because is this a separate company that's going to be providing the valet services?
I would imagine, not that, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but I would imagine that the business license would be related to the 1100 East Blue Heron Boulevard address. Doesn't matter to us, but I suspect that...
Well, it would have to be
but to collect
the
it,
owner of the
it would have
property.
to be the owner of that property.
Right.
And that would be not the Buccaneer, it would be
The property owner of record?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
May I ask one more question?
Go ahead, Ms. Shepherd.
Are you finished?
Yes.
How many will this restaurant hold?
The actual,
Capacity.
the actual capacity hasn't been finalized yet, because there are renovations ongoing, and that'll be established, but obviously, the parking, this parking will be adequate for the capacity.
I see
More
there's-
than adequate for the capacity, yes.
Excuse me, I see there's a trolley over there. Where does the trolley go? Is it just for the island, or does it come over on the west? How does that trolley work? I always wondered. I don't want to put you on the spot, I just...
No,
wonder.
you're not putting me on the spot, I just don't want to misstate. I'm not sure, the trolley does go around to the, and comes into Riviera Beach, I think, and goes up by the beach area and around, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Mr. Gustafson?
Madam Chair, this is a question for, I believe, staff as well as the applicant. On the sheet here, it says the applicant is Island Chapel LLC, and I understand he is the owner of Island Chapel LLC is Mr. Sharfy, that is also the owner of the Buccaneer. But at the same time, since it is Island Chapel and we're using the property as a Buccaneer, would we have to change the applicant's request to the Buccaneer to be used as the applicant instead of as the Island Chapel? I understand there's, the property is already set up as Island Chapel LLC, but at the same time, we're using that property for the Buccaneer,
Right.
which is Palm Beach Shores.
I think it was a somewhat unusual
match.
situation because both entities are owned by the same individual. So I think from a staff perspective, we understand what the intent is. So maybe from a paperwork perspective, we can go back, look at it again, make sure that legal reviews it, make sure there's no other potential hangups. But I think that the intent of the petition is clear, and we'll definitely go back and make sure there's no corrections that need to be made to make sure there's no questions in the future about it.
Very well.
Okay, I'm just kind of concerned about the hours of operation. I would really like to see something in writing with that. And as far as the hours of operation for the business, when it reopens, because I'm pretty sure it would probably be the same as it was when it was open before it shut down for remodeling. you know, and then the hours of the valet parking. Because, I mean, sometimes valet closes before the business closes. So I don't understand why that's not included in here. Can we get more information on that tonight or no?
Well, Madam Chair, I'm not trying to be difficult at all about this. I don't envision the valet utilization beyond 2 a.m. if at the latest or something, if the restaurant, I don't know, but I'm just saying if you all wanted to make some type of recommendation that the valet service not be utilized past a certain period of time, that would be something that I don't have authority to agree to, but I would, as this request moves forward, we could address it.
I would certainly like to add that as a condition. Staff.
Yeah, we can add any condition that the Planning and Zoning Board would like to recommend to City Council.
I would like to recommend that the valet, but then again, so I'm not sure, you know, with the business hours of the restaurant to kind of see where that should be cut off. So.
Well, the 2 a.m.
I'm thinking 12 a.m.
Okay.
And
The 2
even to
a.m.
me, that's
reference-
still kind of late.
The 2 a.m. reference point corresponds to the latest possible alcohol sale point, at least for the city.
Okay.
So at least for the discussion, that's one point to start from. I'm trying to think of adjacent restaurants and what their typical hours of operation are.
Someone mentioned that the Sailfish was next door, and it's basically kind of sort of the same. I'm not sure.
Yeah. You know, I think if there's a certain time that you feel comfortable with, whether it's a midnight time frame, that we have to go back and verify. I know Mr. Stacker will have to confirm with the applicant that they want to proceed with the application if there is a restriction on the time frame, if that meets their business model. But the board definitely has the ability to make that recommendation to City Council, whether it be midnight, 2 a.m., 11, whatever the board is desirable of.
Is there any thoughts on that from the board?
Well,
Mr. Gustafson is looking something up. Go ahead, Ms. Shepherd.
No, I think that should really be a condition. I do. For safety concerns with drinking and coming across, you know, I would really like to look into that, the time.
Mr. Gallen, you have any thoughts?
Yes, I do. Just like I mentioned before, I have an issue with not knowing what the time is also. We can just make recommend that they add that condition on there, the time for valet parking or what have you, be added.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
To the reference that was made earlier about the Sailfish Marina, their restaurant operation hours are between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. So if they're like kind, it would be the same time. If the last dinner reservation is at 10 o'clock, I would think that valet should be shut down no later than midnight.
Okay. Staff could add that recommendation.
Midnight.
Yes.
Nothing good happens after midnight.
So Jeff, being that this is a petition, is it required for a motion?
Within 31-580, and let me find the section. Letter E states, all requests for off-site valet parking shall be considered for approval by the City Council after receiving an advisory recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board. So yes, a recommendation is required.
All righty. So, let me go back to Buchanan. Item E, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach approving the application for off-site valet parking per City Code Section 31-580 at 1100 East Blue Heron Boulevard for use by the Buccaneer Restaurant located at 142 Lake Drive within the town of Palm Beach Shores and providing for an effective date. Is there a motion?
So moved with the condition of the valet being closed at midnight.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Margaret Shepherd,
Yes.
James Gallen,
Yes.
Anthony Brown,
Yes.
John Gustafson,
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, on to item 10, general discussion. I have 2 comment cards. One is a request to be read into the record by Terry J. Thomas of 375 Auburn Avenue, number 207, Atlanta, Georgia, who is a former Riviera Beach resident. Okay, so see if I can read this. Okay, STEM, or science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, a national educational idea includes cultural and museum facilities in underserved communities like Riviera Beach, Florida. Beginning in 1993, the AACAO Inc. implemented Kwanzaa here in the city chambers, a high-quality museum reflective of Riviera Beach is needed and built for residents. Dr. Thomas, education consultant. So that was requested to be read into the record, and it has been read into the record. The only other comment card I have at this time is from Bonnie Larson. You come up to the microphone at this time.
This probably doesn't make any, Bonnie Larson, probably doesn't make any impact right now because you've already voted on it. But with that housing project, there were 2 traffic studies done, and the gentleman who was here, I think he was the one who did it for the company requesting that. That was done in 2014, so that was 5 years old, that traffic study. There were 2 traffic studies done, and that was done. And also the thing about the median, those medians are a pain in the neck, because you have to, for our house, you have to drive down 5 blocks. If you miss it, you got to drive 5 blocks, try and make a U-turn, and then come back. Now, if you got kids there, which you will have, it's going to be difficult with the parking, with the Palm Tran, and also with the school buses, because it said there wasn't room for fencing even in the front. And I didn't quite get where that top lot was, because you certainly don't want that on the street either. But I think people, when they come here, I wish they would have all their information. Now we just talked about the Buccaneer. We don't know what hours, we don't know how many parking spots we need, we don't know how many are there. I think if staff could say to them, have your information ready before you come here. I have to commend all of you who are on this committee, because it's a big chunk of your time that you're giving up for the city. It's an unpaid position, it has to be. But you asked good questions tonight, and your service is appreciated. So thank you for that, and thank you, like I said, for the good questions. But I just really wish that people would come here prepared. They know what hours they have. They know they're renovating it. They know how many parking spots they have now. They know how many they're going to be having. The architect's right here. They know all of that. From the other group, D.H. Horton and the Waltman Group, didn't see anybody from there in the audience, or maybe they were just sitting here. They should come up and introduce themselves. They want to do something in our city. Come, make your presence known. Introduce yourselves to us so that we know who you are. Oh, the traffic study? Okay. Yeah. I talked to the city about this before. I will be bringing it up again about the number of parking spots. I know code says you only have to have 2, but that's ridiculous. You got 3-bedroom units here. You're going to have a husband and wife, hopefully both working, 2 cars, and then you're going to have the kids. They're going to want a car too. So those 100 extra spaces, that means, visitor parking, that means absolutely nothing, because your kids and your husband or wife are going to be using those guest parking spots on a regular basis. I have a friend who lives in a community like that, and they have to park out on the street. That's even worse, because they only have 2 parking spots. So this is something like the 1940s. We really need to update that. Avenue E, they kept talking about expanding that, and I don't know if you're aware, but Avenue E only goes as far north right now as to 28th Street. That's as far as you can go north to turn on to Broadway. So now they're talking about expanding it from 33rd to 34th or something like that. I don't know how that's going to work, and I don't know, what buildings or homes are in the way, but it only now goes to 28th. So is it going to go to 28th, and there's going to be a break, then it's going to start up again in the middle of their community? We don't know. Wish they would have had security there, and I hope they put in good lighting and security and the homeowners. They didn't talk. Oh, I read an article in it. She mentioned high 200s when you asked her the price. The article I read from D.L. Horton said the 200s to the 700s. So again, that was an article published. So I wish people would come here and have their facts in order and tell you the truth, what's going on, because it's your time they're taking up. But the public, we appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for all the questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Larson. We appreciate those comments. Hopefully, those are things that the buyers will take into consideration if they choose to purchase in that development. Okay, staff, correspondence.
None, Madam Chair.
Yes. Okay. Did I say that out loud? Project updates, upcoming projects.
I really don't have any other updates at this time. Our next anticipated meeting is June 13th. I don't know if we'll actually meet. I don't think we have any pending applications that are ready. There's one that's in the pipeline that I'm thinking of, but I'm not sure if it's quite there yet. So that one's to be determined. If not June 13th, then June 27th would be our next date.
Thank you. Are there any other board comments?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Galvin.
Staff, do we have anybody or any companies coming in that wants to do anything with the old Winn-Dixie building that sits over there?
We actually haven't had any parties come in interested in really doing anything different. I've heard some, I guess, conversations in the community, but we haven't had any formal meetings or informal meetings at that point, to really discuss what could potentially happen to that building that's not currently utilized.
Yeah, because I'm sure by this time, it's becoming an eyesore now. It's been sitting there empty for quite a while now.
Okay, any other board comments? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Adjourned.